Before that, I was just going into the classroom and doing something and just giving homework and walking out. But then I learned designing a class.
Designing, that's the key, isn't it?
When they learn not to plan but design, again, you become a leader. I'm really happy to be in the school building with all these young people, with their fresh ideas and full of, imagination, full of hope, and they want to change something. And that's really inspiring for me too. So when you inspire people, it's not only about the information or the knowledge that you have. It's also about how you look, how you talk, even how you walk to the classroom.
Well, hello, Seda.
Hello.
And it's really nice to be here in MBA schools.
Thank you so much.
So thank you for making the time to join us for the podcast. And I think we're in, probably it was my favourite place in school when I was a child. Is this your main library? Tell me a little bit about this space.
Okay, this is our library, the main library of the building. And we take students from primary school to high school here. They can come here and have their classes here. Mm-hmm. And it's not only about reading books, but it's also about discussion points in the library. Or they might, get here and get some idea about the different authors and different ideas about, the lessons. And if, for example, if they're doing group works, they have group tasks, they come here and they can study here even after school. So we actively use the library in our school.
So it's part of the community at the
exactly.
school.
And it is very important to make students learn about how to behave, how to act in a community. That's why even from the very young ages, they learn how to be in a library, and they understand that they have to be quiet here, not to disturb other students.
So we're going to start with a quote that I really liked. It's something that you said about teaching. So you said, "I wanted to become a teacher because I've always believed in the power of education to change lives. Helping students discover their strengths, develop confidence, and reach their potential is incredibly rewarding to me. Teaching gives me purpose because every day is a chance to make a difference in a young person's life." I think that last sentence, making a difference to someone's life, is really, really powerful. And you've been teaching for over 25 years. Yeah. Can you take us back to the moment when you first realised you wanted to pursue a career in education and teaching?
The first time that I realised that I wanted to be a teacher, I just remember that really clearly, was because of my English teacher in secondary school. And because she asked me one day, she was a native speaker, she was from England, and one day she asked me if I can just help her in the parents' meeting, because the parents were Turkish and they wouldn't understand that she was going to speak English. I was really excited and I got really happy because an adult was going to believe in me and was just giving me a responsibility. So it was really impressive for me. And then I realized, I said, okay, that person changed, my teacher changed something in my life. And I realized I really like telling people things. And I really like making people get aware of something in their normal lives. And education and teaching is one of the places that you can do that really obviously, because you're in the classroom. Imagine you have like 20 students in a classroom and 20 different students, individuals. You have lots of things to discuss. Even when you start the class, just by discussing what have they done the previous days, or what did they do last night, you just start a conversation and you learn lots of bits about their lives, how life affects them and who they want to be in the future. And a day comes and they thank you about, the things that you've just only talked with them. So that was the real exact moment I realized, okay, I want to be a teacher. I want to change something in people's life. Maybe just a kind of role model for them, inspire them a little bit. That is something very, really valuable, inspiring other people. So I can say it was a very, very good experience for me. I realized that change comes from the school, in fact. It's not only the place that where you learn maths or where you learn physics or other lessons, but you learn how to be a good human being, a better self of yourself, let's say. That's why, I'm really happy to be teaching in a classroom. I'm really happy to be in the school building with all these young people, with their fresh ideas and full of, imagination, full of hope, and they want to change something. And that's really inspiring for me too.
So many points. I could literally talk all day about so many different things. You said, having students not become better students, but becoming good human beings. That's really important. And how important teachers are to change the course of someone's life. I mean, I remember when I was at school, to be honest, my most favourite subjects were the ones where the teacher was inspiring, and the one that I maybe liked the least was the ones where maybe, for me personally, it wasn't so interesting. Exactly. So I think that's really, really important.
Yeah, for example,
teacher.
If you ask my students, who is Seda teacher, they would first say, oh, she's really disciplined. I'm disciplined because I say, look, you have to have a balance in your life. I talk with the students. What they have in their lives is so important to me. For example, when they come and when they want to talk about something during break times, that is very important to me, because maybe they're not talking those topics even with their parents. So teacher has a really big role in their social lives, in their educational lives. And I just try to do my best, in that sense.
Yeah, and I think students actually probably spend more of their sort of waking time at school with teachers than maybe even parents. So I think that role of the teacher, the school, the community, again, really, really important to build up students as a whole.
Exactly, yeah.
Moving on to, let's say, your background in teaching, you've completed both the CELTA and the DELTA qualifications. I know that they're tough, especially the DELTA ones. What was that experience like for you, and how have these qualifications shaped your teaching practice?
When I got my CELTA and then DELTA, I was working at a university as an instructor. And because I had graduated from an English language and arts department first, when they asked me to do CELTA, I said, I don't want to, I'm a teacher. But while I was in that process, I realized as a teacher, I was pushing myself too much. I was the one working studying in the classroom, not the students. I realized that. But then I realized, no, I have to do something different in the classroom. I have to make students work on that thing in the book, maybe. And then I realized when I make students busy, I had my class management back. I was so powerful in the classroom. I was monitoring them. My teacher talking time was less.
You should think about that.
That was the biggest problem I had, teaching talking time. I was talking a lot. And I was thinking that if I talk a lot, I would make students just learn lots of things and listen to me. Then I realized, no, I have to make them practice things in the classroom. So they were really good experiences for me, especially in DELTA, when other my colleagues, other teachers observed my classes. I had a different eye. I saw myself from a different perspective, because when you're in the classroom, you do not realize that all the time, because you deal with lots of different issues at the same time. You have to, let's say, manage the students. You have to be ready for the syllabus, and you have to be really careful with the words that you use, the age, But then a person who is watching you, observing you, an outsider, gives you lots of ideas about yourself, your teaching skills, your teaching methods. And so it was really effective for me. I learned lots of things, and after I just applied all those things that I got from my CELTA and DELTA, I can say I became a really, a really strong teacher in the classroom and outside the classroom, really.
Yeah, because you really have to reflect and question maybe some things that you have always done and you think that, that's the best way to do things. Actually really reflecting on your own teaching practice, observing other teachers observing you. It's a really sort of 360, isn't it, on your teaching? Yeah.
And when you start thinking, for example, when I was observing other teachers, I was like, why I didn't think about that? I can also do it in my classroom. And you understand other teachers also just experience the same kind of problems as you do in your classroom. You don't feel yourself alone, because teaching is a really difficult job sometimes. So you just realize, okay, there are lots of people like me. They have similar problems in the classrooms. How can I just organize that 40 minutes and design that 40 minutes? I learned that designing 40 minutes in my classroom with that courses, Before that, I was just only teaching, going into the classroom and doing something and just giving homework and walking out. But then I learned designing a class.
Yeah. Designing, that's the key, isn't it? It's not just getting through the unit and turning the page. It's really, I've got 40 minutes with these students. Maybe I only have 3 or 4 sessions if I'm lucky a week. How do I get the most out of the 40? How did they get the most out of those 40 minutes with me? No, absolutely. It's that the design of a lesson. I think we're quite similar because you did your CELTA and DELTA. You've been a teacher trainer and an examiner. And I mean, we know that exams can be very stressful for a lot of students. What tips do you have to help students feel less stressed?
First of all, they should get the idea of what is success, For example, exams, evaluation, assessments are a different part of teaching, And students, I think they should be really balanced about that. They should practice what they've learned in the classroom. For example, I've read lots of papers about, I watched lots of documentaries about these, assessment problems that students have. I think it's a kind of engineering, As a teacher, you should make students that they're ready for the exams and they will have other chances. It is not just like the grade that they get, but they should be aware of that. They have learned that far. So what about the other part that they couldn't do? Okay, they will learn it later on. So I think they should give time for themselves. They should feel free about it because it's learning, So I try to make students understand and realize that, okay, they did this part of thing in the exam and they have lots of to go on. They shouldn't give up, but they should balance it. They should repeat everything, for certain amounts of time. They should learn how to search things, first of all, because if they do the search themselves, if they take their own notes, not taking something important, I think, before the exams, they will understand that they're doing better in exams.
So taking responsibility, I suppose, and accountability for their own learning. And
Not memorizing. I'm not talking about that, Not memorizing things, just to get the idea, the real core of the thing. Is I think they will always remember. They will call back that information later on during the exams or when they have these kind of assessment things that they're experiencing.
Hello. While they take a quick break, it's time for our top tips for today. And we're talking about sustainability today. My name is Cecilia Lemos-Hammer.
And I'm Helen Allen, and we both work in professional learning and development at Cambridge. In some other episodes, we've been talking about different dimensions of sustainability. We're going to be talking about transformation today, so skills for transformation.
All right, so transformation is being able to take action, which is understanding that we have choices of which actions to take, and those actions have different impacts. So it's about understanding that interconnectedness as well. And sustainability issues can often make us feel powerless. So transformation is understanding that we're not powerless. We can do smaller things that have a greater impact.
Yeah, we're all on that's a stage in our journey, aren't we? And quite honestly, quite frankly, a lot of us are quite at the beginning of that journey. But it's about understanding the things we can do. You can find out more. You can talk to somebody else about it. You can share your feelings. And then you can move towards actually doing something practical, towards the solutions side of things.
That's it. People need to understand, to have a better understanding of things that they can actually achieve. One practical activity that teachers can do in the classroom to develop that skill in students is an activity from our sets of activity cards that is, I can't, but I can. And if I do, then. So it's getting students to think about that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do that with you, Helen. So I want you to think about the issue of plastic bottles and how they are damaging to the environment, and they fill landfills and they pollute oceans and get, animals get tangled into them. So think about what you can't do about it, but what you can. And if you do that thing that you can, what will happen?
Okay. So going from a personal perspective, I can't fix that problem straight away. I can't remove all the plastic bottles from the world in my lifetime even. But I can choose not to buy plastic bottles. I guess I can also influence other people in my family not to buy plastic bottles. I guess if I felt very empowered and motivated, I could influence my organisation to remove all plastic bottles from the organisation. If you follow that train of thought, the impact there is that you can do more than you think, actually. If I can do something small, I can do something slightly bigger. Other people can do other things, and together we can tackle the problem in the way that we can.
So my top tip would be to encourage teachers to carry out projects in the classroom, because they bring opportunities for you to engage with that transformation.
And trying out different roles as well. So building learners' skills to act as a, not just to kind of do the work together, but to take different roles, like, for example, ensuring fair communication so that everybody has a turn or everybody can share their ideas, that kind of stuff. Or, sort of building relationships with other people. So the different kind of ideas and the different roles you can play all help to build the skills that you need for a sustainable future.
And
really.
transformative.
Yes.
And that's our top tip for today.
So a lot of teachers ask me this question, and I'm sure they'll be interested to know your perspective on this. Lots of teachers want to make that transition from the classroom to a leadership role. You've done that, and it sounds like you're doing it very well. So what advice do you have for teachers who are thinking about making that step, maybe not quite sure if it's how to do it or if it's right for them?
I believe that there are two important things for that. First is, again, balance in life. We should be aware of that. And secondly, communication. And also, a teacher shouldn't forget that you're a leader in your classroom also. You get the first experience there. There are students and they're just looking at you. They want to learn something because they have exams to take. Also, being a leader in a school community is the same thing. I have lots of teachers, I have lots of colleagues, and I plan lots of things about them. So when they learn not to plan but design, again, you become a leader. Of course, that when I say balance, it's a tiring thing, managing issues, creating plans and syllabus. It's something tiring. It needs lots of hard work. But communication is another key there. You have to listen the people first, and then just give the answers that they need. I always look at the necessities. I first check the necessities. When I'm in the classroom, also when I'm leading some people, what the necessities that they have. It is not a kind of book which has all the rules in that. No, it's life, it's changing. That's why communication is really important. And when life is changing so fast, we have to do lots of other things. So a little bit flexibility is also important, because of the necessities that you learn and you have to answer them. You have to be flexible, caring, communicative, and balanced, I think.
And that balance, do you ever find that a challenge, balancing management, teaching, everything else, the million other things that you've got going on? What's the challenge, and how do you deal with that?
Yeah, that's really sometimes difficult, especially busy days. But what I do, I first take a deep breath.
Yes.
I just stop myself and I say, okay, Seda, I just talk with myself. I said, okay, don't give up, because you have a responsibility. you're a leader or a teacher in the classroom, you have a responsibility. You know, I can't forget the students in front of me. They're just learning from me. I try to be a good role model for them. I try to make them aware, get them aware that, look, life is going on. You need all these information just to make things easier in your life. It is not the whole story. So I remind the same things to myself. I talk to myself, and I'm a really planned person. I plan everything, first of all. But of course, a little bit flexibility is also important there, because we are in a school and anything can change or happen in a minute, because we have students all around us. Also, it is the same story with the adults, with my colleagues. Maybe she's living a hard day that day, and I might be asking for a task to be completed. And maybe that communication part is really important there. So in that sense, I have to be balanced, and I have to also, let's say, learn something about, myself. I should learn things about, I should go to cinema, I should go to theater, so that I can just reflect all my experience to people around me, my students or my colleagues, let's say. So that's hard, but you learn it, you live with it.
You seem to be able to manage that empathy with being an architect. So you design, you plan, but you have that very empathetic side. Can you learn that? Is that something that you were, born with? Is that how did that come about? Is that
I think it's really instinctive. It comes from me. Also, experience really makes it happen, because, for example, I always think as a teacher, I say, okay, my role is not only teaching in the classroom. My role is just, as I've told you before, inspiring people. So when you inspire people, it's not only about the information or the knowledge that you have. It's also about how you look, how you talk, even how you walk to the classroom. So I always say to myself, how would you like your teachers when you were a student act to you? I always think about that. And also my colleagues, in fact, they give me that experience. They give me the keywords, because I plan something, and while I'm planning that, I ask my teachers to just apply it in the classroom. So they are the real leaders, in fact, in the classroom, and they reflect me what is going on in there. Sometimes, I might be wrong, but we can talk about this really clearly, really openly, we don't have that barriers with the teachers or with the students. So I design it, I plan it, but it's also a little bit work. Sometimes failure, sometimes success, let's say. It sounds like a very typical story, but no, it's really a failure. You learn every day. Even today, I learn lots of things from my colleagues, from my managers. So when I have problems, I'm a problem solver at the same time, because of the leadership situation that I have, position that I have. I learn how to solve problems, and it is practice, just like in the learning. When you practice a lot, you get used to it.
And it's a muscle. You work on
like
it,
a muscle. Yeah, exactly. And you learn how to do it. And when you start, solving problems more and more, it's a kind of thing that you're addicted to it. And it's okay. That's a normal problem. I can do it. Why not?
It becomes instinctive sometimes as well.
And you just do it. But first, what I give importance to, first listen to people, and then just don't read things from the book.
It sounds like you've created a very collaborative department. What else do you do to encourage collaboration between teachers?
Just because we have lots of campuses around Turkey, and my teacher from Ankara campus, my teacher from Maraş campus, they can easily call me. And sometimes they just call and chat about, their holidays. We have that bond between us. So we have groups, we have meetings, regular meetings. We talk about everything, and all the teachers have freedom to criticize the system that we're trying to build up. And they might say, Seda, this is wrong, because in Maraş we can't do that, because I am not there. I am not living in that city. The learner profile might be different there. I listen to them. I said, okay, you know better than me because you're in the classroom. So we always ask each other. And when I plan something and when I'm in between, I just go to the teachers. I have a very huge teacher's room, let's say. And I say, okay, what should we do? Can we change it? Do you think that? So we ask each other and they answer. And when they feel that we really want to change something, we really want to do something different for the students, the teachers also adapt to it and they want to be a part of it. If I become a manager like, okay, I am telling you the things to do and you will just do this one by one. No, this is not a good way because they won't feel themselves in the business, just like in the classroom. As I've told you, with CELTA, I learned how to make students be in the class and do the work. Now it's same with the teachers. I am designing, I am, okay, modeling, all right, but they also have a word in what I do. And they're in the business themselves. So they criticize themselves sometimes. So we're so open about that.
So creating a system, an environment which is where people feel empowered.
Yeah.
They can give feedback. They feel psychologically safe to be able to say what they think.
Exactly. And they can criticize me really openly. There's no problem with that because I have to be caring at the same time as a manager, you know, as a leader. I have to understand. And later on you become, with the teachers that we have, we become like a really huge family because we know lots of things about us, you know. If one of my teachers go to hospital and has a problem, I just ask, oh, how are you? You're fine. That is something very simple, just to ask, how are you? And then they really appreciate what you try to do, and they feel that. I always say, you can do mistakes, no problem for me. Just let's try to solve it together. We can do mistakes. And because why I do like that, because I want the teachers to be free, just like I do with them in the classrooms. You know, I just want them to be aware that they're responsible for the students, and young people are just waiting and looking at them, and they're trying to learn something from how they, as I told you, how they speak, how they walk. So they should see a model of it first from me and then in their classrooms. So just like chains, you know, affecting each other.
You've taught for 25 years, CELTA, DELTA, teacher trainer, examiner, manager. We're going to talk about now that feeling when. Okay, so that feeling when is that feeling when a student overcomes their fear of speaking English, for example. It's that feeling when they achieve their goals or say thank you. It's that feeling when their world grows. So in all your time, can you think of a specific moment or a specific story when you had that feeling when?
Okay. I had lots of that feeling.
Yeah, I thought you might.
I had lots of, but last year it was a really difficult day for me. I had a really, bad and busy day, and sometimes, teachers think about it. Okay, I just want to give up. I don't want to teach. Everything is all these homework, papers. I have to check lots of things, and also my other roles in the institution. I was on that day, and just a message came to my phone. A student like from 10 years ago. He was just saying, oh, hello, teacher, how are you? And it just came up to my mind, and we were talking about you. After 10 years, just, I was not seeing that person for about a long, time of period. And I said, oh, thank you so much. And he just simply thanked me. He said, oh, thank you so much. Now he's working in an institution. He's a business person. And he said, I just want to thank you because today, he said, we had a meeting and we had some guests from other countries. And I was able to speak and just talk about I gave my presentation about the topic that he was working on. And then he said, I felt, okay, I should just text message to Seda, teacher, and say, oh, thank you so much. That was the feeling that I get, oh my God, that's really nice, It was a really hard day for me, but then just one thank you, it was like a huge gift for me. It was really, I appreciate that moment so much. And then I said, okay, you're a teacher. You can just go on.
It makes everything worthwhile.
Yeah,
I mean, and 10 years on, someone to think to text you is
when you
really
see
special.
when you see your older students, when you just sometimes you just see them, come across with them, even in a gas station, and they just recognize you and they say, "Oh, teacher." I said, "Oh, thank you. How are you?" That's just something really nice. I sometimes think people sometimes complain or criticize, or teaching is something really boring because you always walk into the classroom and teach the same things every day. But it's not.
No, people are different.
Every day is different here in a school, because every day you have different feelings of people in front of you. So, how many people will one day see a person from 10 years ago and just say, "Oh, thank you so much because you did this for me." It is something that I feel myself lucky at that times,
All right, so morning lessons or afternoon lessons?
Morning lessons.
You're a morning person.
Yeah, I'm a morning person, yeah.
What's your favorite English word or phrase?
Congratulations.
Oh,
Yeah, because I see the happy faces of the students. Congratulations. It's just a very
you can't
simple word.
not smile, can you, when someone says congratulations to you?
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's
true.
really positive,
Group work or individual tasks?
Group work.
What's your worst teaching habit?
Sometimes I become so serious in the classroom, and sometimes I just push students a little bit hard. That's something, that habit is not really good. And then I just make myself, okay, Seda, don't do that, because everybody has a limit. And also teacher talking time. Sometimes still I talk too much, even I had my CELTA, that is my worst habit, I think, teacher talking time. Yeah.
What's your go-to snack or drink during the day?
Coffee.
Turkish?
Turkish and a little bit latte. I love.
Okay.
But Turkish coffee is, of course, my best.
And what's one thing you couldn't live without in the classroom?
My board mark. I love my board mark. I love taking notes. When I'm teaching something, or when I'm even chatting with students, because the language is a different language for them, a second language for them, I like taking notes of keywords.
Okay, words that have come up during the...
Yeah, And for example, I have a thing, even when we are chatting in the classroom in English, and I just note the keywords on the board, and just like the last 5 or 6 minutes, I say, okay, just have a story with these keywords that you see on the board. Just a simple practice. I love it so much. So I think my board marker.
I used to do that as well. Have a line, all the words, and then right, do you remember that? Do you remember that? How do we use that in a sentence?
Yeah, it's a good way of memorizing things and just remembering things. So my board marker. Yeah.
Excellent. It was so nice having this conversation. Thank you for your time.
It was so nice too. Thank you so much.
The insights were really interesting, and again, lovely to be here at MBA Schools.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cambridge is where your world grows.